When I last played through Skyrim, I noticed something that I hadn't really picked up on before. Despite the protagonist being arguably the strongest character in the series, despite the stakes being higher than any of the other Elder Scrolls games, no one seems to notice. Are you the leader of every major faction in the game? Well, no one has ever heard about it. Slaughtered a dragon for the first time in centuries? Well, these guys just inside the walls don't know anything about that. Did you prevent the total destruction and rebirth of the world by slaying the son of a god? Huh. Well, me and my four-legged friend here have never heard of you. But what compounds this isn't just the NPCs not reacting to your accomplishments. It's the fact that throughout the world-ending story of Skyrim, the oncoming apocalypse plays very little concern in the minds of the people of this province. What I noticed during my last playthrough is something that simultaneously reveals the theatre that is an RPG game, but that also arguably makes the setting and world far more realistic. Because in Skyrim, no matter what you do, no matter what the existential threats are, no one cares. In the first moments of the game, we learn that Skyrim has a problem. The once united empire has buckled and shattered, and now the province has fractured too into a civil war. In the next few moments of the game, we learn that they will soon have a much bigger problem, both physically and existentially. Not only have the dragons returned, which are already a bit of a hassle, but this particular one is the son of a god and is destined to eat the world. Very inconvenient. Judging by how Bethesda treats the quest lines around these two central issues, where one is the main story of the game and the other is mostly just a bunch of fights in forts, you'd expect the in-game world to reflect this. But it doesn't. Plenty of characters mention the dragons, but time and time again the key problems in many of the NPCs' lives come from the Civil War. People are missing, jarls have been overthrown, and bandits move freely now that guard patrols are reduced. We're told that the price of food is increasing, we're told that people are being levied to serve in their respective armies, and we're given the vibe that the province of Skyrim was already in quite deep turmoil before the dragons arrived. Once you beat the main game and save the entire world, you can talk to like 3 people about it, the guards will react, but for the most part it's just business as usual. People still haven't heard of you, and people still don't care. Yet, despite how minor and unfinished the Civil War questline is, with huge portions still left incomplete in the code despite us being on Skyrim version like 403, a ton of NPCs will react to whoever wins the conflict. Slay the World Eater and change the destiny of the planet that has literally been set in stone for centuries? Hello, traveller. Defeat the usurping King Ulfric? The local blacksmith will now know and hate your face. And I'm not just theorizing here, I've done the maths. Across the cities of Skyrim, if we look at the NPCs that have something to say about the current climate, an average of 75% will mention something about the Civil War, yet only 25% ever say anything about the dragons. It feels like there's a huge disconnect in the game, and it's one that seems to really take you out of it. Skyrim is shouting at you that the world is ending, but if you decide to ignore the main quest for a while, you could forget about Alduin entirely. It's hard not to perceive this as some sort of design flaw. Plenty of people have made jokes about how characters will not recognize the Thane of their hold, or the leader of every major guild, or the Last Dragonborn. It feels wrong, and in my opinion it really has the potential to take you out of the game. When the leader of the companions hasn't heard of the guy who trapped a dragon in the palace 20 meters away, it makes you remember that you are essentially in a play. Shakespeare said that all the world's a stage, but if Skyrim had been out in 1597, he would have felt like a real idiot, because the Globe Theatre is nothing compared to this game. A horse, my kingdom for a horse. The characters of this game have their lines, and they cannot deviate from them. They react to what they're told to react to, and for the most part, this works. If you do a quest for them, they'll like you more. They may even have a line or two in response. Sometimes it's a little funny, like if you beat them half to death, they'll call you a good friend, but on the whole, it's a decent system for such a colossal game. What they aren't programmed to react to, however, are quests outside of this small circle. Unless it's connected to them or their city, they generally don't care. It can feel a little clunky, but in my opinion, the civil war and the oncoming apocalypse are really the only aspect where it breaks through into confusion. Many of the characters are programmed to care about the civil war. They're given lines about how it has affected them, and you can ask several of them how their lives have been changed if the city swaps sides. Yet almost no one is given any lines about the end of the world, nor about you saving it. It certainly feels like a design flaw, a relic of a once far more encompassing civil war, rather than what just became a few battles and an optional argument. But is it? Is this really a flaw? Or could this perhaps, arguably, make the setting of the game more realistic? Now, it's no secret that once you notice how no one in Skyrim cares about anything you do, it does stand out a lot, and it can really break your immersion. Some of this is central to the themes of the game. The Greybeards and their leader will directly argue to you that perhaps you aren't meant to stop the world from being reborn.
Have you considered that Alduin was not meant to be defeated? Those who overthrew him in ancient times only postponed the day of reckoning. They did not stop it. If the world is meant to end, so be it. Let it end and be reborn.
The Blades, the faction that actually prompts you towards learning how to defeat Alduin, will also infamously rescind all aid to you if you don't agree to carry out their plans. While the Greybeards may argue against you ostensibly stopping the natural cycle of the world, the Blades are, to their own knowledge, refusing to aid the only character that has the ability to save the world. But the rest of the people, why don't they care? Why don't they seem to know anything that's happening? It doesn't appear to play a story role on the surface, but I'd argue that there are a couple of reasons that actually make their reactions fairly realistic. Firstly, we have to acknowledge that when Alduin first appears, no one has any idea what's going on. We don't know his motives, we don't know if he's intelligent, and a few characters don't even seem to know what he is. After all, dragons were beasts from a story, and hadn't been seen in Skyrim for a very, very long time. We also figure out the motives of Alduin throughout the game. Aside from the Greybeards, only one man, Esbern, seems to have any idea what could be happening, and how to potentially stop it. So with these factors combined, it makes a lot of sense that your average character would have no idea that the end of the world was actually approaching. To them, a dragon is little more than a natural disaster, like a storm or a flood. And to be honest, I'm not sure if dragons even appear intelligent to the average Skyrim resident. Sure, we know they are. In fact, we know they really are. We hear them debate, we hear them talk. But does anyone else? The Greybeards reference Paarthurnax's knowledge, the Nord heroes seem to stop and listen to Alduin, but you'd think that while fighting the first dragon in centuries, one of the guards might have asked why the giant flying lizard was speaking English. You'd have thought that Delphine would have a couple of questions as to why the giant black dragon was talking directly to us in our own language. Is this once again a design flaw, or was this intentional? And that question comes to my second point. Is it perhaps intentional that the vast majority of the characters mention and are affected by the Civil War rather than the dragons? Sure, we know that it doesn't really matter who wins the next skirmish when the end of the entire world is round the corner. But no one else seems to. In one sense, the Dragonborn is a walking relic, a reference to the previous Elder Scrolls game. There hasn't been a Dragonborn in a long time, and the prophecy on Alduin's wall even states that the events of every major game in the series were required for the wheels to turn upon the last Dragonborn, a title that we're also given without explanation. Are we the last ever? Once we defeat Alduin, will there never again be a Dragonborn? Or are we perhaps the most recent? Or is it a reference to the apocalypse? If we don't stop Alduin, there won't be a next Dragonborn, because there won't be a next anything. To a person's daily life, the price of grain, the threat of a hostile army, or a change in government are real, physical risks. Sure, you can be concerned about a storm, a flood, a fire-breathing lizard, but what would weigh on your mind more, acts of nature or acts of man? You can fear a fire, you can hope it doesn't happen, but you can hate the quarrels that have led to your country splitting itself in two. You can hate the soldiers harassing your village, you can hate the Jarls for not standing up for what you believe in. You can't hate the storm, but you can hate the man. A dragon attack is just bad luck, being buried next to a tomb from 1,000 years ago, or just being victims of random chance. But the soldiers of the opposing side are making a choice. The Jarls must choose one side or the other. Harvests are seized by choice, supplies are taken by choice. So is it any wonder why the characters of Skyrim fear the war more than they do the apocalypse? We've seen two key facts. First, the Civil War of Skyrim is remarkably undeveloped, seeming to be more cut than included content at this point. Yet, despite this, the second fact is also true. The NPCs of Skyrim are 3 times more likely to bring up the Civil War than the dragons. So in the end, the central question is, was this intentional? In a game where the easiest method of unlocking a door is by smashing into it with a plate, it is extremely difficult to tell. Plenty of inconsistencies have lore explanations. We are, after all, the Dragonborn, a mortal with a soul of an immortal. But where do we draw the line? It's no secret that the Civil War is by far the most reactive part of the game, but other elements can cause NPCs to respond to you too. If you help them, if you anger them, and plenty of them will notice if you are diseased. But no one will care if you save the world. In my opinion, it's likely a bit of both. Bethesda intended for the main quest to facilitate the apocalypse. We meet and discover the motives of Alduin throughout the game, and in the end we have to journey alone to stop him. The rest of the characters of the game therefore demonstrate the impact of the Civil War, of the division of Skyrim, and the consequences that we never see for ourselves. But it's also no secret that the Civil War was greatly excised, and the fact that so many characters mention it is surely a consequence also of this removal. A relic of a once far larger quest system that would impact every hold in the game. Judging from the response to the adoring fan in Oblivion, I'd wager no one wants the NPCs to come running to you in exceeding excitement over you saving them from an apocalypse that they didn't know was happening. Which is why I feel like, unintentionally or not, the responses of these characters are actually fairly realistic. The Dragonborn reflects a lot of the apathy that our friends the Greybeards have. Sure, we choose not to just let the world end, but we aren't impacted by rising food costs. We don't lose family members to the war, our house isn't burnt down, and our farms aren't raided. Here we are wondering why no one cares we saved them. But does anyone in Skyrim have the luxury to even consider the world ending at an undetermined date, when their province is, right now, actively bleeding to death? In the end, intentionally or not, are these actors on this stage all that different to us in the real world? Thank you for watching.